and turn the microphone on.
Okay.
Or whatever. And so, and then I was, to be honest with you, I was getting ready to leave because I was like, maybe he's not making it happen. Because I don't know when you started. Did you just start? Or you been on? I don't know.
I've been on for about I don't know, like 15 minutes or so.
Oh, so you got on right around 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I thought I was waiting for an invite or something. I don't even know. I'm sorry.
No, dude, it's all good. It's so good. Give me 2 secs though, so I can start the official podcast time here. Oh.
Welcome to Photography Chat with Merlin. Photography Chat with Merlin.
Welcome to another episode of The Chat. We're here with Ray Barbee. It's season 3, episode 37. And thank you so much for joining, Ray. It's great to have you on here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Sorry again for the lack of technical ability to log on time.
It's all good, man. No worries on that, because like, I mean, you've got it down when it comes to the photography, and that's all that matters.
I don't know, man. Hey, I was digging that theme song. Who did that?
That was by Mocha Only. He's a rapper here from Vancouver.
Right on.
He spent a bunch of time in LA too.
Okay.
He was part of Swollen Members for a while there, and
yeah, cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool cat. He actually just lives down the street from my studio. So he's
right on. Yeah, it's a nice touch.
Well, so I've been doing this is season 3 now. I started this August 2020 during like lockdown when we were all stuck at home during the pandemic, and originally it was just doing it like off of my cell phone with like a little Bluetooth speaker thing, and then this year I decided to I'm going to spend some money on this thing that makes me no money at all to try and like up the production of it. So I bought like all of this like broadcast gear so we can have good audio and like, you know, put in the sound bites and stuff. And now we're also streaming on YouTube at the same time. So like there's a YouTube stream also happening. So
yeah, so you stepped it up. Is that foam behind you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's I do the podcast. I've got a little studio here, and it used to be an old motel, and then they converted the motel into artist spaces. And so I do a bit of photography here, as well as the podcast here every week.
Super cool, man. Right on.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and like, you know, I've been really lucky to like chat with some interesting people. Like it kind of blows my mind, like the folks that have agreed to spend some time and share some stories with me. And you know, now
that's cool.
You get to be added to those lists of people here.
Right on, man.
So I was kind of, if you want to take a moment to just like, you know, say hi to everyone, and for those of you who may not know who you are, just give them a little tidbit.
Yeah. Well, whoever's watching, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, my name is Ray Barbee, and I live in Long Beach, California, with my wife and 2 sons. Very grateful to have turned pro for skateboarding when I was 17, and never forget, you know, senior year of high school when everybody's kind of getting on you about, okay, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Going to college? What are you doing? And I had just turned pro probably about a month before graduating. And I remember saying like, yeah, maybe, but I think I'm just going to try this for a year. And I had no idea that it'd be, I don't know, 30 years later, still able to be making a living riding a skateboard. And so, yeah, and I like, obviously, because the reason why we're speaking is I love photography. And so, and in particular, I love printing in the darkroom, and, and also play music. And so, jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Well, I heard a lot of great stories from you from Alan Evans. He used to be out in Boston at the Leica store there, and
oh, right on.
Yeah,
right on.
He was talking about how you came out to do a thing at the gallery there, and he said you were just super nice dude.
Yeah, it was really cool to spend time with everybody, all the crew over there at the Leica store out there. I think it was maybe I don't know the digital. I don't know a lot of the digital cameras that Leica has, but I think it was like the SL2 maybe. It was like a launch thing that they were doing, so they asked me to come out and play. I came and played for that, so that's what brought me out.
Oh, that's cool.
It was fun. And that store is really cool because it's attached to a hotel. I remember it was just like, the hotel was just like right through the door. Just get right to the lobby and so, but yeah, Alan was awesome, and the whole crew there. Like I've been very fortunate to been able to spend time and meet a lot of the employees that work at the Leica stores, and for the most part, man, they're just all great people, especially when here in LA. Partial to that one because I'm close to that one, and so I get to see them more often.
I haven't seen the LA Leica store, but I am going to be driving down to Texas next weekend for a Polaroid thing, and both ways, on the way down and on the way back, I'm going to be stopping through LA, so I might have to pop in there and check it out.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got the gallery upstairs, and I think there's a cool show hanging right now. I can't remember who, but that's one thing that's cool about the Leica store in LA is it's one of the flagship stores, or I think it is the flagship store possibly. So it has a nice gallery space up top,
That's wicked awesome. Dave had a question for you on how you got started with photography.
Well, growing up skateboarding and getting to the point to where I got sponsored and then eventually turning pro, then I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of really talented photographers, in particular skateboard photographers who work for the magazines. And so for me, a lot of it started with my interest towards photography started with being on the other end of the lens, whether it be them shooting portraits for interviews or them shooting me skating, And so I've always been around it because of skateboarding, and I've always had a great respect for their craft, because when the photos would come out in the magazine, it was just like they transformed what I felt was kind of simple or whatever. They turned it into something exciting because of their composition, or because of their perspective, because of the what the lens does to it, especially the wide angle lenses, putting you into the action. And so I just grew up around photography because of skateboarding, basically. And it was from that exposure that eventually drew me to wanting to shoot myself also, but I never had a desire to shoot skateboarding. But it's because of those guys that I wanted to pick up a camera, basically.
That's cool. Yeah, there's like a really interesting intersection between skateboarding and photography, I've noticed. Like, a lot of my favorite photographers all used to be skateboarders, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You know, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think that there's something about the way skateboarding makes you see things, or should I say, the way you learn to see things because of riding a skateboard, then that carries over to what excites you and how you look for things when you're holding a camera up to your eye. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that ability to hunt comes from skateboarding, because we're always looking for skate spots. We know there's something here. And so I know when I'm walking around with my camera, I'm having that same kind of posture, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always looking for things. Where is it? There's something here, you know, kind of thing. And so, and it's interesting because I see a lot of that, I guess, in, these photographers that came from skateboarding, you know.
Yeah, Brian Brook was asking. He's like, name names. So some of the photographers that I really like, that inspire, like, well, you of course are definitely like up there.
Wow.
Jason Lee, Ed Templeton, Deanna Templeton. Her work is great. Ardo Sari, I like his stuff.
Yeah.
Greg Hunt, also fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot. And I think I kind of like that the lens that a lot of skateboarders capture, because I was talking with Jeff Cole, who runs Skull Skates here in Vancouver. I did a Polaroid 8x10 portrait for him this week, and
rad.
It was just interesting talking with him and like kind of realizing like how steeped British Columbia is in like skate culture. Like just growing up in the 90s in like a small town, you know, there's like, you know, skateboarders everywhere. That culture like permeated in like all the punk music and like the scene that we were in there. And it's just kind of interesting how like I didn't realize like how much that became ingrained as part of my life until later. And I think that's why I was like drawn into these photographers with the view that they had.
Yeah. You know, there's that saying where, you know, like shoot what you love, right? And one thing I love about skateboarding is, you know that term, it's a business term, right? Where they call it in-house. Yeah. Where it's like in-house we get, you know, like if we think about vans, like I remember for a little while they were hiring an ad agency to do their skateboard ads, you know, but that ad agency didn't come from skateboarding. And so those ads, this is like mid-90s, those ads did not translate well because the guys laying it out on skateboard, I think they were surfers. And so you see a guy, I remember, you know, you see an ad of, say, like a Tom Boyle who had a shoe at the time, vert skater, doing a McTwist, and it would be him cut out with a white backdrop and no lip, no coping. And so from that and from the skaters, me being one, because when it came time for my ad, I was like, I don't want them to do it. And so I got a friend to help me lay out my ad. And from there, I remember just a bunch of us saying, hey, we need skaters to do these ads. And so they hired my friend Donnie Miller to come in and start doing the ads, right? And so, again, that term in-house means like, we don't have to hire outside. We can do it from within. You know, and I love that about skateboarding. It's like every part of skateboarding, it's, you know, so many of the things that makes it what it is becomes in-house, right? It's like skateboard photographers are the ones skating the skateboard action, you know. Skateboarders are the videographers who are capturing the action and creating the vids. The shoes are being designed by skateboarders. music's being created by skateboarders. And so there's this culture where, I always say it's like skateboarding is like this big quilt, and all the various patches of the quilt are these things, right? It's like music, videography, photography, design, graphics. You know what I mean? It's like those are all various patches of the quilt. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's very common for all of these things to function at a high level from skateboarders, because it's skateboarders that can tell the story the best, can present these things the best, can capture it the best. Again, going back to the shoot what you love, you know what I mean? It's like a skateboarder is going to know the moment that you should freeze the action, And so, I'm not surprised that you get all these talented skateboarders who are really functioning at a high level in these other kind of areas, I mean, I think about Spike Jones,
Yeah.
I'll never forget when 9/11 happened. I remember, and I don't know if it's true, but I would not doubt it. But I heard that there were certain directors that were getting hired by the government to come up with possible terrorist scenarios, And I think I remember hearing that Spike's name was in that mix. You know what I mean? So, and they're coming to Spike not from skateboarding, not from doing the blind video or working for Trans World or Big Brother, but they're coming to him because of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And when he starts doing movies, he's bringing a breath of fresh air to an industry because of his ideas are coming from him being a skateboarder, And so it's I'm very grateful that skateboarding is so rich in all these other kind of aspects that makes it what it is. Photography being one, music being one.
Absolutely. Speaking of in-house stuff, Bob Kronbauer said hi to you.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Bob's
hello, sir.
He's a studio mate here. So in the building where I'm in, he's just kind of kitty corner to my studio.
Okay, cool, man.
Yeah. And then for Bob, I'm wearing one of those.
Cool, man. I always dig Kodak color palette, the old ones from what's that, like the 70s, huh?
Yeah.
That yellow and that orange, it always reminds me of like the skate park era of the 70s. Bands did a lot of cool stuff with those colors too.
And Alan had a question for you. He said he finally got space for a darkroom. Do you have any tips on what he needs?
It's gonna sound like it's not that big of a deal, but I love it. Get a foot switch for your enlarger.
Really?
So the foot switch is for the timer. Oh yeah, I love it. I think a lot of it is because of burning. I don't have to sit there and hit my timer and then get back to it. I can have it where I need it to be. Hit my timer, hit the switch, and I'm on. I'm in bed. I'm saying, don't underestimate the foot switch for your enlarger. That, and I'm a big fan of having a red filter over your lens to block the light if you need to position your paper or position a mask over what you're burning while needing to see a little bit. So there's like some of the filter sets will give you a red filter that will allow you to kind of just set up while you have light on it, but it won't fog up your paper. And I'll use that for specific kind of things where I need to be really precise with the burn. I had a photo of my buddy Willis, who skates for Nike, but the photo was going to hang in a Vans kind of thing, so I wanted to burn out the Nike swoosh, and so I had to cut out. There's another trick too: keep your scraps, keep your mess ups basically. So if you blew it on a burn or you blew it on exposure, like still run that paper through everything, like dry it, wash it, run it, keep them, because those serve as great masks. Cut out and just lay on your print, or just to use, you know what I mean? And so for needing to burn out that Nike swoosh, I needed to be able to see where I'm laying it. And so that red filter really, really saved me with being able to have my paper in the easel and then put my mask over it and position it, and then take that off, put in your regular filter, whatever you're using. And so foot switch and the red filter. Those are underrated, I think.
That's the red filter. I've never heard of that before. Like, that's such a cool tip.
Yeah, the most of those, especially the Ilford filter set will give you that red filter. The red filter, basically, it's a safe light. It's like putting a safe light underneath your lens, basically. So it's a nice one too if you're trying to dial in your blades. Kind of if you're cropping, which I never crop, or if you're trying to dial in where you want your borders to sit, and yeah. So, anyways, those are pretty cheap, but most timers will have a input for a foot switch. And so, but again, I think I'm such a nerd, and I'm so particular in trying to get certain burns and things. It's just like I need both hands, and sometimes, or I need to just be able to hold it where I need it and then just click it. Sometimes if it's flopping and I gotta move over to hit the thing and then pick it up, and then so it's just nice to just have it right there.
Yeah, the foot switch, that's a great tip. Then there was another question here. Saltarian wants to know, what inspires you to pick up your camera now?
Same thing that's always inspired me, which is just to capture something interesting to me, or something that I feel is important, or something that I want to remember, or just something that I just want to see how it looks being photographed. I guess what I'm trying to say is the interest is still the same as it's always been. It's just, to capture a moment that I think is special, or simply just to see what something looks like being photographed and in black and white, But I find that I shoot the most when I'm traveling. I think when I'm at home, I'm working on other stuff, and I think that's the type of photography that I enjoy. I think a lot of that functions well, or came about because of it was something to be to coexist with traveling and carrying a skateboard and having a guitar also, and especially tours, playing music. So there's so much downtime in between sound check and the gigs, and it's such a fun way to explore a new city, or explore just being away, And so when I'm home, yeah, I'll still catch moments and things, but I find I'm like, oh, where's my camera? I'm blowing it, kind of thing. if I'm around the house or the kids are doing something interesting or there's something, or I see a light. Light a lot of times will inspire me to grab my camera. Just seeing the way the light looks, just like, oh man, I want to try to capture that, you know. I guess what I'm saying is, at home, I'm not quick to the draw. On the road, it's always slung around me. I'm hunting a little more, you know, and so I think the quarantine really showed me how much I shot. Quarantine showed me how much traveling played a role in my shooting. I didn't shoot as much during the quarantine. That was more processing and printing.
Yeah, quarantine was really weird, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a trip. A big trip.
And then I think eCrip310 is wondering, who is your favorite fellow skater photographer?
Wow. Favorite fellow skater photographer. Man, there's a lot, man. I can't just name one.
Top three.
Top three. I mean, well, all, you know, Anthony Acosta. Probably one of my favorites is John Humphreys, and Michael Mealy. Tobin Yeelan.
Oh yeah.
You know, Gabe Mulford, like, you know, but so many guys have such good eyes and just good. I like Jerry Sue. Jerry Sue, I dig how he sees things, and the I love it when you can see people's personalities through their photography. You know, especially. Yeah, I love how sometimes you get a better idea of someone's personality through their photography, you know. Yeah, man, there's so many, but those are some. Thomas Campbell has a great eye, really interesting the way that he approaches his photography. Yeah, I mean, there's a Spike Jones. I always loved how Spike approached shooting skating. Spike was the first guy out of all the guys that I would go out, out of all the photographers that work for the magazines that I'd go out shooting with. Spike was the first one that was like, we'd get to a spot, say like 12 o'clock in the day, where the sun's just harsh, and I'd be ready to get the trick. We'd be skating for a little bit, and then he'd be like, okay, cool, let's go somewhere else, let's go get something to eat and come back at 5. And I'm like, I'm ready to do it now. And he's like, no, but the light's gonna be better at 5. And I was like, okay. And then when the photo come out, it's be like, oh man, that photo looks so cool, you know. I saw somebody say French Fred. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could spend a lot of time just going over all the great photographers out there that I feel are coming from skateboarding.
And then Brian had another question for you. Speaking of Ilford, how was it working with them?
Well, for the longest, I shot Tri-X, because when I first, I didn't start learning how to use a manual camera. I shot with a Yashica T4 for years, that I picked up in probably around like 95. And for the longest, that was my photography function through Yashica T4. But my wife had a Pentax K1000 that she had before we got married, and she would pull it out from time to time to take photos of the kids and things, and that camera would sit on a mantle. And every time I see that camera, it just reminded me that my Yashica T4 was training wheels, if you will. And I knew that, man, that Pentax K1000, that represented the craft that all of my friends that are these amazing skateboard photographers are using. Like I understood that like they're really doing it. I'm kind of faking it because this Yasika T4 is doing all the work for me. And so I basically, when I got into wanting to use a manual camera, then I don't know, probably, what was I, like 30 something? And so one of the things I was super excited about was getting in the darkroom. And once I figured out that I could learn to print at the Long Beach Community College, I could just take a beginning black and white course, and then you can just use the lab to print. Then I was like, okay, I can do this. But I realized that paper is expensive, film is expensive, chemicals is expensive, along with the amount of time that it would take to just even get over the learning curve of learning how to process your own film and learn to print, right? And so with it being expensive and me needing to justify spending this money on what my wife would always say is just like a hobby, then I quickly found out about the best and cheapest film stock or, film to buy. And so I'm here in California where Freestyle Photographic Supply is. And I learned from the employees that Arista Premium was repackaged Tri-X, but for like half the price.
Oh, wild.
So I was using Arista Premium for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years or something, until I think Kodak, they didn't agree on the amount that Kodak wanted Freestyle to buy more than they felt comfortable with. And so they stopped using Kodak basically for the Arista Premium. And so when that was done, I started buying Kodak Tri-X. I think someone turned me on to Ilford HP5, and I used it on a trip. And I think I got turned on to it from my friend Matt Day, who he did a YouTube thing showing Ilford HP5 pushed to 1600, and it looked amazing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to try that. And from there, I just saw that, like, you know what? HP5 is so versatile because not only does it do the regular rating, which I sit at around 250. I nerded out with my buddy Ray Zimmerman, who's a great photographer, skateboard photographer. It goes by MRZ. It goes by that. And I found out about a film speed test and found it online. And I was like, Ray, would you want to do this with me? And he helped walk me through this film speed test. And Tri-X for my camera, my chemicals, it came out, it says 400 on the box, but it's really about 250. And so anyways, I just applied that to HP5. And so not only did 250 look great on the HP5, but 1600 looked amazing, pushed. I had detail in my shadows. And so I was just like, I'm all in with HP5. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm kind of a latecomer to the film stock, but it's probably my favorite film stock, HP5 Plus. But I've always used the paper. And so it was an honor to be able to work with Ilford, we did a thing with my friends, Daniel and Sarah, who they have it's called Explordinary.
Yeah, they're watching right now.
Oh, right on. Yeah. And so they're the ones who did this series called Ilford Inspires, and they did a great job. And so not only was it fun to work with Ilford, but it was really fun to work with Daniel and Sarah. They do, yeah. that was all of it was just fun. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Ilford. Always used the paper, but now coming over to the film side, I really love that HP5. Hey, Daniel. What's up, Ray?
And then Alan had a question for you that a little while back.
Okay.
There's rumors that Leica might be releasing a new film camera. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've heard those rumors too. I think it would be amazing. It reminds me of, I'm not sure what the years were, but when the SLRs came out and Canon and Nikon were kind of starting to take over with the SLRs, and Leica, the rangefinder was struggling, wasn't selling as much. And then they diverted manufacturing to Canada to kind of try to lower the cost.
Yeah.
And they came out with the where they come out with the
M4 Canadian.
The M4 Canadian, but there was like the M42 or something, or
is it the M4? Yeah, the M42, yeah.
Right. But anyways, I think that really saved them. There are talks about maybe a new film camera, and I'm excited, and I guess hoping that it's kind of a similar kind of thing where you can figure out how to manufacture it maybe outside of Germany so that you can keep the cost manageable. And then with the film surgeons or wherever the interest of film photography is today, that you can have a camera that can compete against these kind of really crazy high price M6s and M7s now. And I think if they can figure that out, I think it could do well for them, because I think someone would like to get a new camera for the same price of a used camera. And so I'm hoping the rumors are true, about the new film camera.
I hope so too, because like I'd really like to buy a Leica of my own one day, but I had a bit of a challenge with it, because like I had a chance where I could have bought a Leica, but instead I chose to buy a Deerdorf 8x10 because it was the same amount of money.
Right on.
So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's my point. Well, I guess also what I wanted to say is, it's not about just bringing out a film camera. It's bring out a film camera that can allow the community that's most excited about it be able to get in.
Yeah.
Don't do a film camera and then have it be priced so high that the people that really are passionate about wanting to shoot film can't get to it, And so I guess along with it, I'm hoping that they can figure out a way, like they did before with the M4s, to come out with a film camera that is affordable, basically,
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because they've always been doing film cameras, right? They came out with the MA with no meter, but still charging, you know what I mean? But it still comes in at a high cost. So it's all about accessibility, man. People, it's about accessibility, and it's about inclusiveness, right? And so there's a lot of people that would want to be a part of it, but it's not accessible when it's at those high prices.
That's very true.
If they're able to get it to be reasonable, now it's a little more inclusive and get more people experiencing it and being a part of it. And hopefully they can figure out that dynamic. I feel like they did it before, so hopefully they can do it again with it.
Yeah, fingers crossed on it. And then Explordinary had a question for you. First they wanted to say that your glasses look really rad and they dig them. and they wanted to know if you had any exhibitions coming up.
So I was just a part of there's exhibition. I got to go to Tupelo, Mississippi. This was, I think, maybe a couple weeks now. It was really cool. They had there was a festival that the local skate shop called Change, and Matt, who owns it, working with the city to bring just new life to the city. And so he was a big part of putting this festival together. So skateboard, music, and art, and so I had some prints hanging up with an art collective called Punk Rock and Paintbrushes,
Oh, that
which
sounds
is a
cool.
lot of, so it's a lot of artists, very few photographers, but there's a couple, myself and another photographer. And that's kind of traveling. So it was in Tupelo, Mississippi. Then they went to Nashville, and now it's going to like a music festival with like a bunch of bands on that bill, like Pearl Jam and these kind of big bands. But I'm so out of it. I don't know where that one is. I was just like, you guys have my prints, so you can take them to wherever you're traveling to. And so, but nothing coming up. Been working on music, working on a album, and so that, and then skateboarding, and so not really printing too much right now, or and don't have any shows coming up or anything.
That's really cool, though. And then Aaron is curious, outside of skate photographers, what photographers inspire you?
Wow. I'm just a huge fan of the whole Magnum collective, David Allen Harvey, Constantine Manos, Martine Frank, but then also like John Klein, William Klein, is it Joseph C?
Yeah.
I can never pronounce his name right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys are kind of escaping me right now, but a lot of those guys are huge influences for sure. A lot of the Magnum guys, Alex Webb. I love how they arrange their composition, the way they arrange the elements within the frame is just like, I just love the way the command that a lot of those guys all have with that, And I love how it's from capture. It's not like when they crop later,
Yeah.
And so I get inspired and really appreciate their abilities to do that, And I'm a big fan of black and white too. So I just think like, man, they just mastered that,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Cartier, Cartier is huge, but his wife, Martine, I think, man, she has just as much influence on me as he does. Her eye, she has it too. What he always called it geometry. That's what Cartier always called it, composition, but just the placement of things,
That's interesting. I'm a little curious, not photography related, but what got you into music, and when did you start that originally?
Oh man, I wanted to play music before I got into skateboarding, and so growing up in the 80s and MTV had just come out, then I grew up with a lot of jazz and soul in the house, and then MTV comes comes out, and now I've got rock and roll in the house and metal. And so in fifth grade, I'm just enamored by the Guitar Hero in these videos and in these concert footage that MTV is playing all the time. And so I wanted to play guitar before I started skateboarding. But I didn't know anybody who had a guitar. And again, it goes back to that accessibility thing. You know, it's like, I think I knew one person who had an electric guitar, but his dad wasn't letting anybody touch it, really. And so I didn't get a chance to pick up an electric guitar until I got into skateboarding. And the guys that took me into the fold, if you will, those guys played in punk bands. And then before we would go skate and have band practice, I'm hanging out at the band practice, and after they're done, I'm picking up the guitar, bugging them to teach me some chords. And then eventually I get in the band, and eventually I get my own guitar. And so, so music came through, I want to say, MTV, but I didn't get to experience it until I got into skateboarding.
That's wicked awesome. Like, yeah, I really dig your music, honestly. Like, one of my favorite albums that I listen to, especially when I'm like driving around, is the one you did with the Matson too.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss those guys, man.
Yeah, someone earlier on was asking if you were going to do a follow-up with them.
That's always out there. It's just more about, just time and just someone saying, "Hey, let's do it."
Absolutely.
Everybody's so busy and doing their thing, but I can say that we're always open to that, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that at some point. You know?
I think one of the things that I really enjoy too is not only like listening to your music, but the videos I've seen of you playing. You're like one of the most genuinely happy people that I've seen when you're playing on your guitar, and it's a really cool thing to watch.
Oh, well, man, I'm just having fun. Hopefully I'm not blowing it, and it's not a rough gig. But yeah, it's I'm so grateful, man. I always feel like I'm gonna get caught. being able to do what been allowed to do, and so I'm encouraged that that joy is visible, because I am grateful, and I'm not conscious of it, and so I know where that joy comes from, and so I guess I'm saying I'm glad that I guess it comes out, you know.
And someone's asking her, when are you coming to play in Brazil?
I'm always open to come out. It's more about opportunities than anything.
Yeah, you got to find a Brazilian show promoter there, man. Get them to book Ray.
Yeah, right.
So
we've gone out there before, though, and it was a blast. Got a chance to play out there before, but it was a while back. Yeah.
That's super cool. So I asked you about your top 3 favorite skate photographers, but what would your top 3 like musical inspirations be?
Man, probably at the top is Wes Montgomery. He's a huge hero. I'd say D Boone from the Minutemen.
Okay.
He's a big inspiration and hero, and I feel like lately I've always been a big fan of James Honeyman Scott from the Pretenders.
Oh.
He only played on the first 2 albums and he died, but yeah, man, Honeyman's a beast. But I would say those are my three right now at the moment. I mean, Wes is always up there. Same with D Boone, but I think lately, because I've been playing a lot with my friend Tony Alva and Rachel Rainwater and Matt Rainwater. They have a band called His Eyes Have Fangs, and they're in between guitarists, and so I've had some time to be able to play with them, and when they've got gigs coming, when they have gigs, they're like, "Hey, Ray, would you want to come play with us?" And so as I've been playing with them, then Rachel Lamb's been writing some new songs, and I've just kind of been helping out with arranging them and things. And so it's really made me appreciate the craft of what James Honeyman Scott did with Chrissy Hind, where he kind of brought a lot of the melody and life out of her ideas, And so it's really made me appreciate his role and what he did with the Pretenders, And so, yeah.
That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. What has been one of your favorite moments while you're hunting for a photo?
Wow. Sometimes you just get a photo where you're like, wow, I caught that. I hope.
Yeah, I hope.
I hope I didn't blow it. And so it's not too often, but sometimes I will get that oh man, I can't wait to process that one. It's been a while, but so I don't know if it's one moment. I think it's just an overall kind of thing, that feeling that you can get when you shot something that you think could be really exciting to print, and maybe be a part of a show down the line or something, But as many times as I've had that, I've also had processed it, and it's like, yeah, it was better just seeing it than how I captured it,
Yeah, I've definitely had moments like that where it's like the brain photo is a lot better than the photo that I took.
Yeah, or what I thought the camera saw, it didn't see it that way, either because of me or just because it can't,
And then, where is it here? NC Film Freak is curious, what's your go-to film developer with HP5?
So what have I been? Right now I'm just HC110. Right now, I was for the longest. I felt like my look was Tri-X with concentrated D76.
Concentrated.
Concentrated, yeah, because I wanted it to be snappy.
Oh.
I did that for the longest, but I really got over mixing powder. And so when I went for liquid, I ended up with HC110, Kodak HC110. But for push stuff, I love Ilford. I think it's just called Ilfotech HC, which is their version of HC110. But it's just called Ilfotech HC. And it's that combination when you're pushing, I feel like that's the magic. When you use Ilford HC, Ilfotech HC with HP5. I mean, I've pushed it to even 3200 and seen details in the shadows and shot and had images that I shot in the day, and the highlights weren't all blown out and crazy. So I feel like that combination is kind of what allows you to get to those results.
That's very cool.
Ilfotech HC with HP5.
I've never messed with the Ilfotech, but HC110 it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, they changed the formula. It's a little more liquidy now. Really? I don't know if it'll last as long. We'll see. My buddy Robbie Jeffers, who's another photographer that I really dig and a good friend, but he was saying he felt like it went bad quick for him.
Oh no.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah,
I'm not trying to. I don't think Kodak's too hyped on me.
well,
I'm all wrecking their new deal.
yeah, you're out here like repping
Sorry,
Ilford.
Kodak. Sorry, Kodak.
Well, we got to get Tim Ryugo in here, and we can see what Tim can do to try and pull you back into the gold fold.
No, I'm still down with it. I'm still using it. It is my go-to. It is my go-to. It's just they changed the formula. So.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
But that being said, I'm thankful they're still doing it because I know it's hard to get materials now, and I know paper's in jeopardy because they're having a hard time with certain materials that they use for paper.
Damn,
a lot of the paper companies. Yeah, man. So that being said, thank you Kodak for still making it happen at least.
And Black Swan 74 is wondering, what guitar effects do you like?
Oh wow. So for the first time in a long time, first time since ever, I've put a pedal board together. And I would say probably my I have two favorite pedals right now that are my pedal board. One is a company called Hologram, and they have a pedal called a Microcosm, and it's like a granular kind of sampler delay pedal, but it's wild, and I really dig it. And then I'm a big fan of the Strymon pedals, so I've got the Strymon Deco, which is it mimics input of a tape deck, where you can kind of saturate it and it compresses, and then it also mimics the effect that you get when you take two tape decks and you spread them from each other. There's a lag deck and then the source deck, and the farther they go from each other, you get flange, kind of more phasing, and then chorusing, and then the farther you go, you get doubling, like a slapback delay.
Wow.
And so, anyways, that pedal's probably one of my favorites.
That sounds like a fun pedal.
Yeah, it's cool.
And
it's
then,
kind of always on pedal for me.
And Alex is wondering, how often do you have to get your Leica M6 repaired often?
I do get it serviced, but only if I blow it. Meaning, like, I've dropped it at the beginning of a trip before and messed up the alignment, my patch. And so, of course, I've had to get, you get that service. Few years back, man, maybe 4 now, there was my wife's a school teacher. And so, LA Unified had a big strike. It's like the first one in like 30 years. So I was out there shooting it, and it rained that day. And so, I lost my meter being out in the rain with it. And then, my viewfinder fogged up. And so that was probably the last big kind of, repair that I needed. And, I was using, going to Steve's Cameras in Culver City. And Steve replaced my, viewfinder for me. He put in I use a Leica M6, and he put in what's called the MP upgrade.
Oh, nice.
So it kind of helps with the flare that you would get on certain angles of light hitting and making you lose your patch. And so he put that in, and then eventually he put in a new meter for me.
Nice.
But like, typically I don't really have to get it serviced much, really,
And then Ray Vidal is wondering if you're ever going to play in Toronto.
Hopefully, but no plans as of right now.
If you do end up in Toronto, I think you'd enjoy checking out Hotel Rex. It's on Queen Street West, and it's this kind of little bar that's always playing like blues and jazz and stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun.
Right on. That's cool.
And then Robert is wondering, how did you come to invent the no comply 180 revert?
I mean, me and my friends, we were just basically, me and my friend, particularly my friend Robert Torres, we were just exploring and trying variations of we learned those as step hops, because our buddy Randy Smith in Sacramento, he's the one who taught us and showed us what everybody calls a no comply, but back then he was calling them step hops. And so we would go to Sacramento, because I lived in San Jose at the time. We'd take a Greyhound to Sacramento, skate with the Go Skate crew. There's a skate shop there in Sacramento called Go Skate, and all the skaters that worked there and hung out there or rode for them, like Ricky Windsor and Troy Clower and Randy Smith and Sam Cunningham, Ross Goodman, all these guys. We would go out and skate with them, and Randy was doing step hops, and we learned them. And then when we go back to San Jose, we would just try variations. And so I just think we were just like, hey, what if we like try to turn it back, kind of thing. But I've always put this disclaimer out there. It's like, I never claimed to have like invented anything, because I always figured somebody somewhere else was stumbling across the same ideas, It's just, I happen to get sponsored by probably one of the biggest skateboard companies at that time, and came out in their video, and that's where people saw that stuff for the first time, But people have been doing that for a long time,
That's
at
wild.
least where I came from, especially Sacramento,
And another one of your extraordinary homies just popped in. Joe Brook just got in. I liked his Ilford video. That was a fun one.
Yeah, Joe's awesome. Hey, Joe.
And then we've got another question for you here. What's the pedal that makes your guitar sound like a bass?
Oh, that's a pitchfork. It's the Electro-Harmonix pitchfork. Yeah, it drops it down an octave, which that's where a bass sits. It's just an octave lower than a guitar. And so, yeah, I got this looping pedal called the Aeros Loops Studio. And it's been a game changer for me, because it allows me to send my loops to different sources. And so I can send my guitar loops that I create live. I can send those to a guitar amp. And then I'll store drum beats inside the pedal, and I can send those drum beats to a bass amp, which will do a better job managing the kicks, the lows and the kicks. And then I can send a bass loop through the bass amp. And so that's allowed me to grab a pitchfork pedal and start playing bass through my guitar. Because before I had a Boss loop station, and everything just had to go through the amp. So I had drums and two guitars going through this poor amp that is trying to manage all these frequencies. There's no way I could add bass into that too, and manage all the levels. And so this pedal really allows me to get separation and allows me to have those frequencies. And so that pedal, that looper has allowed me to incorporate bass now. And I do that by way of the Electro-Harmonix pitchfork. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Technology is wild, man.
It's so crazy, dude. It's so crazy. Because this looper is like having a 4-track at my feet. Except for it's 6 tracks.
6 tracks in a pedal?
Yeah, in this looper. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's incredible. Like.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Fun, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I played with any of that stuff. Like, I used to be in a weird punk funk ska band with bagpipes when I was in high school.
Rad, dude.
Dude, it was a little terrifying playing with bagpipes, because we had to tune to A. to be able to play with the
Wow.
bagpipes. And when I was like tuning my bass up to that, it was making some really angry noises. And I just like, I kept picturing like one of the like strings snapping and like stabbing me in like the neck or something.
You know, my friend Lance Mountain, I think when he was a kid, he played bagpipe at school or something. And so
that's wild.
Not a common instrument, right?
No, it's not a common instrument at all. But yeah,
but cool when people can kind of have good, interesting ideas with it. And I know I grew up loving AC/DC, and I think there's one song, maybe "Long Way to the Top" or something, where they had they come in with the bagpipe at the end.
Where is it? We got another one here. I'm Bo Stewart asks, when you came up with the iconic ragdoll graphic, did you and Sean Cliver collaborate on that?
Yeah, totally. So Sean Cliver won a contest. Pal Peralta put out an ad saying artists wanted, and they had like a contest to hire a new artist because they were starting to change directions from a lot of the skull graphics and the artists before, which is a VCJ. And so Sean Cliver won. He becomes one of the new, artists for Pal Peralta to do the graphics. And one of his first assignments was to do my pro model, because I had just turned pro right then. And so I remember Sean calling me and saying, okay, we need to work on your graphic. Do you have any ideas? And I had mentioned my buddy Randy Smith, who we learned the step hops from in Sacramento. Randy is just such a huge influence on my skateboarding. And one of the things that I was super inspired by and loved about Randy's skating is just his ability to make it just look effortless. And it always reminded me of like a rag doll, because he would just do stuff and just fall kind of thing, and it just looked like he wasn't even trying. And I was super inspired by that and love that about his skateboarding. And my friends said they would see some of that in me. And so when I was talking with Sean, I just had this idea for a rag doll, but it was mainly because of that, and man, did Sean blow me away by what he did with just that simple idea of like, I want a rag doll. Like, he turned it into a superhero, because there's a lot of routes you could probably take from that cue, a rag doll. But
yeah, absolutely.
Like, it looked like Spider-Man to me, but like cooler to me. But yeah, that's how that came about. It's just, the ragdoll is inspired by my friend Randy Smith, but the way Sean had the ability to make it come to life.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, what talent, right? What ability to be able to do that, And it's funny, I think about it, I'm so grateful to have come up at a time where you kind of had a graphic for a while, In the 90s, the more that there became new companies and things, then a pro would have a graphic for probably like about a month. And then the next month you have another graphic. But back then, your graphic, you had to have that graphic for like a year or something. So because of that graphic becomes a big part of your story, a big part of your deal. It becomes kind of like your mascot, if you will, and so people know you just as much for your graphic as they do you or your skating, or, and I'm thankful to have been around at a time where that could develop, because it's hard for that to develop now.
Absolutely, yeah. That's really cool, man. Well, like, I want to say, Ray, like, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. I know I've been like dogging you for a while here to like come on my silly little chat show, and dude, I'm super grateful that you came to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man. I think we made it happen, dude.
We did, and you know,
Finally.
you're just as incredible as Alan said you were going to be.
Oh man, that's way too nice, dude. Both of you guys to say. So,
well, it's just
I'm excited to check out your other episodes, and I mean, I know it's live, so I don't know if it lives or sits anywhere, but
yeah.
does
So
it sit on YouTube?
I am putting more of it on YouTube. And I'm kind of in like a period where I'm trying to see if I can transition away from Instagram for the lives and move more to YouTube. Because there's a bit more flexibility with that.
Yeah.
But still kind of sticking with like Instagram because it's like done me so well for a long time. But I also post all the audio onto podcast platforms. So all the audio ends up on like Spotify or Apple Music or Audible or things like that.
Oh, right on.
So those are out there, and yeah, it's just fun. Like it's a bit humbling that like so many people have like, you know, spent some time and shared their stories, and it's always really cool to like hear what inspires people and like what gets them going instead of just like the gear talk kind of stuff, because it's
it to easily go the nerd gear. but it is I agree, man. I think you know, when we talk about technology, I think there is something to people being able to get a little more insight into thought processes and that through, I guess, loose conversation, I guess, you know. And it blows me away because I'm always like, because I'm a windbagger, and so I'm always like, after these kind of things, I'm like, so you're gonna edit it down, right? And they're like, no, we're just gonna run it. And I'm always like, well, man, who wants to hear all this stuff, dude?
Well, a lot of people like hearing it though. Like it's
no, and I think that's what I'm like realizing is that like there is it is interesting to hear people's thought processes and ideas or share their stories and especially in a way that I guess just through like a very loose conversation.
Yeah, like I've never, since the start, I had no idea what the fuck I've been doing, and you know, 3 seasons in and over 100 episodes, I still have no idea what I'm doing. But it's just been
join the
fun.
club, right?
Well, and that's exactly it. Like, you know, I've never had an agenda, and I don't think I ever planned to have an agenda because it's just been more interesting to have an organic conversation with someone and have them just share, like, out of their mind what makes sense about stuff, instead of it being kind of scripted where it's like, I'm going to ask you these 10 questions, and that kind of, sometimes that feels rigid. It's not as much fun.
Yeah. So, man, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for such kind words. I've been trying to look down and look up, and but such kind comments. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And
I'm going to let one question sneak in here before we wrap it up. Walfred asks, favorite band to skate to, least favorite band to skate to. Do you find yourself skating better to a certain genre?
It's funny, man, because I feel like I haven't skated to music since the contest era, where like it was all about contests, and I was skating more contests early on, and you would bring your music for your run, right? And so I remember back then it was like B-52s, and I remember I love B-52s, and so I always loved skating to the B-52s. Just that energy.
They got so much energy.
And their quirkiness, and like I love B-52s. And so but outside of just putting music in a video to complement your video, like I don't really listen to music while I'm skating. Kind of just more aware of the surrounding or whatever, and but back when I was skating to music, it was B-52.
That's really cool. Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm really looking forward to seeing your new music and film projects. And yeah, I think I might be driving through Long Beach, not next week, but the week after. So if you're around, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee.
Dude, reach out. Dude, for sure, reach out to me.
It'd be so cool.
I'll be bummed if you don't. I'll be bummed if you don't. I'm just hoping I'm around. What are the dates?
I think we're gonna be. I think we're in LA. So we have to stop in San Francisco for the 25th. So Armand from the Denton Camera Exchange, he's flying up to Seattle on the 24th, and he's driving down with me because we're going to go to Denton, Texas. Okay. So we're doing a Polaroid photo walk in San Francisco on the 25th, and then I think we're going to be in LA for the 26th, and maybe part of the 27th of September.
This month.
And then
I should be around.
I'm coming back through on the way back from Denton to California, maybe on the 5th or 6th, because I'm interviewing Jason.
I'll be gone then.
Okay. I'm interviewing Jason again on the 6th, and so I'm going to cruise by and see him there. So
right on.
But I'll hit you up for next week.
I should be around. Yeah. I should be around for, when you're heading over, right? When you're heading to Denton. Basically,
that'd be awesome.
Right, man. Coming through, yeah. Well, dude, thanks for having me on. Man.
Absolutely, super. I appreciate you hanging out with me, and we'll let Mr. Mocha walk us out. I got outro music too, so we'll get that going here. But thanks again, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.
Y'all are great. And next week, I'm gonna have Iris on. She's a very interesting photographer from New York. So Black Swan says, say a prayer for my dad. Prayers for your dad.
For sure.
Yeah. And stay safe out there. Have fun, and I'll send you a message, Ray, and we'll catch up.
Right on.
Thanks everyone for your time. It was so great.